Can you imagine being the driver who makes pole, leads the race, has the pace to win, and yet your team decides to sacrifice your race for another teammate? That happened to Oscar Piastri in Qatar. But the worst is not that. The worst is what came next. It all started as a dream weekend for Oscar Piastri. From the first sessions in Losail, the Australian showed a special connection with the Qatari track. The McLaren MCL39 seemed like an extension of his body. In qualifying, he performed an impeccable lap. Neither the traffic, nor the changes in temperature, nor the pressure of having his teammate as a direct reference, got him out of rhythm. When the pit lane lights went out and times began to drop, only one shone brighter: Oscar's pole position. First hit on the 2025 table. But in Formula One, not everything is decided on Saturdays. On Sunday, fate had a harsh lesson prepared. Just on lap 7, an incident in the middle of the pack caused the safety car to be called out. What should have been a strategic opportunity turned into an open wound for McLaren. The moment was perfect to execute a double stop. Verstappen did it. The Ferraris did it. Even Mercedes. Everyone except McLaren. Piastri was first. Norris third. The team had a chance to protect their lead driver's victory, but they decided not to. And it was not because of a misinterpretation of the data, nor because of failed communication. It was a conscious decision. Andrea Stella, team director, would admit it bluntly later. They avoided stopping both because they did not want to harm Lando Norris's career. Meanwhile, Lando didn't have much of an advantage either. He finished fourth. But the message had been clear. The team preferred to risk the leader's career to ensure that the star project did not get stuck in traffic. And although on paper an attempt was made to justify the risk of double stops, time lost in the pits, tire management with technical arguments, in practice an internal preference was revealed that did not go unnoticed. The most alarming thing was not the result itself, but the silence that followed. There were no apologies, no deep explanations for Oscar, nor robust tactical self-criticism. Just a normalization of sacrifice. That resigned acceptance was the definitive sign that the Australian not only competes against 19 drivers, also against his own team. After Qatar, McLaren's public image as an equal team began to crumble. What was previously projected as a modern philosophy of freedom to run was transformed, in the eyes of analysts and fans, into a vertical structure where priorities are defined. And in this new architecture, Oscar Piastri does not occupy the top. The symptoms of favoritism are not limited to specific decisions in the race. They manifest themselves in the small details that, accumulated, reveal a long-term strategy. McLaren is betting on building a project around Lando Norris. It is not just about talent, Piastri has shown that he has it, but also about corporate identity. Lando is a product of the academy, he is British, charismatic, and has been representing the team for years. It is the face that McLaren has chosen to sell its resurgence narrative. And that choice affects everything, from the development of the car to the way internal relationships are managed. Within the team, the signs are increasingly worrying. While Norris maintains a consolidated relationship with his engineer Will Joseph, a duo that functions almost as an extension of the team's strategic thinking, Piastri works with Tom Stallard, a competent engineer but newer to the operational structure. This is not an explicit disadvantage, but it is an indication of how priorities are distributed. In the race, team orders have also begun to tip the balance. On more than one occasion, Piastri has been instructed not to attack Norris, even when the pace was favorable. The international press has begun to raise its voice. British media such as Sky Sports F1 and the race have directly pointed out the favoritism. The narrative repeats itself. McLaren is building its championship around a single driver. And although this may seem logical from a corporate perspective, it has a very high human and sporting cost. No elite driver can grow in an environment where his ceiling is predetermined by decisions that occur off the track. Piastri is in a strategic cage. He can race, he can shine in qualifying, he can even get on the podium. But he will do so with the constant shadow that, if his interests ever clash with those of Norris, he will be the one who has to give in. And that, in a sport where championship opportunities are limited, can mean the difference between a glorious career and an unfulfilled promise. Internally, the Australian knows it. His engineers, his environment, his manager Mark Webber, who has already experienced firsthand what it means to compete in a team where hierarchies are marked, also understand it. The comparison is not gratuitous. What Webber experienced against Vettel at Red Bull seems to be repeating itself now with Piastri against Norris at McLaren. In this scenario, Oscar is trapped. It can't break the cage because the car is competitive. Leaving McLaren at this time would be a huge risk. But staying means accepting a secondary role within a team that, in theory, promised equality. His performance keeps him in the fight for the championship, but his real chances are conditioned by factors that have nothing to do with his driving ability. And that is, perhaps, the greatest irony of all. Because Piastri is not losing races. You are gaining experience, respect, and points. But he is losing the silent war being fought outside the paddock. In the offices, in the strategic decisions, in the way the stories are constructed. And in modern Formula One, these invisible wars often define who wins and who is trapped in an eternal, almost. Favoritism within a Formula One team is rarely openly admitted. But when it sets in, its consequences do not need official declarations to leave their mark. They operate in the shadows in decisions that seem routine, but that condition the entire sport structure. For Oscar Piastri, what happened in Qatar was not simply a hiccup in strategy. It was the revelation that, although he drives one of the most competitive cars on the grid, he does not have the same tools as his teammate to aspire to the title. Strategic decisions begin to reflect subtle priorities. The order of entering the pits when both drivers are close, the reaction time to an unexpected change in weather, the choice of more favorable tires in a critical session, or even the preparation prior to qualifying. Details that, accumulated race after race, can make the difference between fighting for a championship or being second driver without saying it. In the case of McLaren, this asymmetry is starting to become a pattern. If last season, strategic errors affected both drivers equally, in 2025 the trend is different. Every time you have to choose between optimizing one's career or sacrificing the other, the balance falls on the same side. Lando Norris. And these types of decisions not only affect the result on the track. It internally erodes the confidence of a driver who knows that, no matter what he does, his performance will be evaluated with a different yardstick. The loss of confidence in the team is neither immediate nor scandalous. It is progressive, silent, and deeply corrosive. The pilot begins to question if it is worth risking a maneuver, if his strategy will really be the best, if it is worth discussing with his engineer what seems already decided by management. At this point, Piastri is no longer competing alone against Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell, or Alonso. Compete against an environment that conditions your real chances of victory. And every time he receives an order that makes no competitive sense, every time he is prevented from attacking when he has the rhythm, a new wound is installed. And what begins as a sacrifice for the good of the team, slowly becomes a renunciation of his own ambition. Finally, the deepest question of all remains, what impact does all this have on a driver's mindset? Because Piastri, like every elite competitor, has not come to Formula One to settle. He does not seek to be an eternal promise, nor an obedient armor-bearer. He wants to write his name in history. But to achieve this, you need more than just talent. He needs his team to treat him like a legitimate contender, not as a supporting actor in a story written for someone else. And if McLaren is not willing to offer him that scenario, Oscar Piastri will have to decide if his future is really dressed in orange, or if his path to glory needs a new color. Because in this sport, when favoritism becomes the norm, true champions don't wait. They leave. This situation that Oscar Piastri is experiencing is not new in the history of Formula One, but what makes it especially relevant is the context. McLaren is not a team in crisis. It is not a team that is rebuilding nor a team that seeks to survive in the middle zone. It is today the most solid team in the championship. They lead the Constructors' World Championship, they have the most balanced car of 2025, and they have two of the most talented drivers on the grid. Precisely for this reason, the decision to prioritize one over the other is not simply a sporting one. Strategic. It's politics. And it is deeply risky. Oscar Piastri finds himself in the most uncomfortable and paradoxical position possible. He has one of the best cars but not control of his destiny. Race to the limit every weekend, maximize every stint, every qualifying, every start. And yet, he knows that if the strategy gets complicated, if the team has to choose, the coin will not fall on his side. That tension, that silent wear and tear, is the real danger you face. Because there is no driver who performs at his best when he does not feel that his team supports him 100%. Now the question is for you. Do you think McLaren is making a mistake by building its project around Lando Norris? Should they allow both drivers to face each other without conditions? Or is it logical that a team that wants long-term titles prioritizes the continuity of a single leader? What happened in Qatar was only the first symptom. Leave me your opinion in the comments what you think about all this.